Very cool. What's next? What does a good or great deal look like when you buy a turnkey investment? Actually, I don't know. So Brian, when you are buying, or maybe your students, are they buying fixers that they add sweat equity to? Are they buying turnkey? What's going on in your community?
So it's funny. Two of my students in Miami, they're buying their first deal in Cleveland, I think it is, and it's a duplex that was presented as a triplex. And so after they had the private inspection done, obviously it wasn't turnkey. There's a litany of things that need to be fixed, as well as the third unit probably wasn't permitted properly, so they need to underwrite that based off it being a duplex, right? Yeah. I say that to say this: there's no such thing as a turnkey investment. And if it was, then why aren't they renting it out? If it's really turnkey, why aren't they renting it out, making money? Why are they giving you a vacant asset, right? There's no such thing. When you talk about looking at a good deal, it's all about, are you buying below market? If you're buying at market, you're probably close to getting hosed. If you can get below market, to me, it's a good starting point of a potential good deal.
Yeah, I think there's lots of turnkey providers out there that's their business: buy junk, buy slumlord, and sell. I'm hoping most turnkey providers sell them full. Let me to be very clear: buying a turnkey solution that's vacant on proposed rents, big fat no to me. Not happening. Prove to me those rents. And oh, by the way, I don't want somebody moving in for 1 month. I want multiple months of rent collection for all of that. That's that. So Mike, I forget, did you buy turnkey? I think your first one might've been turnkey. And Gary?
The very first property was a turnkey property with a tenant in it that had been paying rent for 4 or 5 months at the time. And they're still with me to this day, 3 years later.
Never left. That's good. That works.
Right. To Brian's point, well, why are they selling it? In Gary, Indiana, they're picking up houses for $15,000, remodeling them for $15,000. And then,
so cycling capital.
Right. You're up to 30 grand. They sold it to me for 60 with a tenant in it. So, it could have paid them cash flow, or they could have just doubled their money. So I think that is what their business model is. However, I have gone away from using turnkey providers because costs went up and prices went up. What they had to put into it versus then what they had to sell it for, I could actually find a better unit myself on the MLS remodeled by some wannabe flipper. Maybe I had to fix a couple of things that they didn't finish. And then put my own tenant in there, and I got to pick up a lot of that profit. So my first one was with a turnkey provider. My mentor bought several, but both of us and many others in my Gary, Indiana network investing group have stopped buying turnkeys because the combination of us becoming more experienced and just we could find better deals ourselves on the market. But yeah, I like the idea of starting with a turnkey. And the reason why, your story, Mike, with your first property on Norris Drive, where those people moved in, they never paid rent again, they went through a divorce. Dion's story, where he did a handshake agreement with somebody and then had to, I don't remember if he evicted or not, but it was a lot of time not paying rent. There's so many stories of people who get started out and something bad happens. And that first property can make or break your investing experience. Not everybody has the mental fortitude to keep pushing on through the bad times. So I like to see people get a win right out the gate with their first property. So starting with a fixer-upper burst strategy type project, that's a lot more risk. I think the best ways to get started would be either to house hack, because you immediately feel the impact of having your living expenses reduced, house hacking, if you're starting investing. And I have friends who have helped start investing by buying their first property in Gary while they still live with their parents. And what did I recommend? A fully remodeled property that's ready to put a tenant in day one. I will help you find and place the tenant, or already has a tenant in it paying rent and there's some history established, because they get that win out the gate, a good taste in their mouth, a good experience, and they can start to establish confidence so they can move forward and be better equipped to deal with problems.
Yeah, I'll kind of echo both of you guys. I think getting a W the first time is important. I don't, if people know my story with Norris Drive, there's very few people that would have done a second deal after that happened to us. I happen to be in a position where my wife is smarter than me, and she told me to keep going because I was ready to quit. So yeah, I like that, getting a W. I will say, turnkey providers, there was a time where they left meat on the bone. In the market we are in now, where deals are harder and harder to come by and supply chains are up, the deals are very, very skinny. I believe in doing the work, getting experience in creating your own Ws. Yeah, I think turnkey today doesn't offer the margin of safety as it did 2 years ago. The market's just simply different.
I agree with, just to double click on that, Mike, if I can.
Please.
Right now, one of the things that's going on in Detroit's market over the last, I don't know, 7 or 8 months is since all the rent moratorium was uplifted, the SARA programs are going away. They're now deferring the initial court date for eviction by 90 days.
Oh, wow.
Then you come back 60 days later after that for the second court hearing. And then you got another 60 to 90 days before you get people out. So if you come in, you buy a perceived turnkey, that's a W. And just because they had good rent rolls on this turnkey investment, when all of a sudden you inherit this issue with this tenant that now gets to squat in your property for 8 or 9 months, when you could have put that time, energy, and effort into buying something below market, maybe getting into a quick turn, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 rehab, put your own tenant in there from day one that you vetted, and now you're more in a more advantageous scenario.
I hope people heard that story. Let me repeat it, Brian. Tell me if I got it wrong. You've got to know, especially turnkey providers today, you've got to know where the rent money came from. I could tell you in my market of Fresno, California, there have been tenants that have been conditioned to have other people pay their rent, and they will never pay rent again.
Mm-hmm.
If you happen to get one of those listed and you get one of those tenants, you have 8 to 9 months of hell. So I would tell you, yeah, in this market, if you don't know the local rules, buy vacant. Absolutely. It's an interesting time. It won't always be this way. We just got a year to get through. I've told everybody 2023 is going to be messy. So yeah, I think that's great advice.